Hello, and welcome back to my Thoughtful Thursdays video channel where we talk about important topics both inside and outside the church. As always, please make sure you're subscribed and turn your notification below to see videos like these in the future. Today I want to talk about the controversial subject of Dave Chappelle's latest Netflix special. Now, this is a really hard video for me to make because I need to start out by saying that I have always loved Dave Chappelle. He has been a hero to me in many ways of comedy. He's been making people feel uncomfortable about racism for a very, very long time. His brand of comedy gets me thinking. I personally find much of what he says absolutely hilarious and reflective of our society. I don't think that I'm wrong when I say that he is brilliant and one of the best stand-up comedians of our time, which is part of what makes this video so hard for me to make today. Comedy is meant to make us laugh. Comedy speaks. A great comedian isn't up there on stage just telling jokes. They are moving an audience. We need comedy. Lord knows we need comedy right now during this time. Comedy is healing. They say that comedy is the best medicine. Of course, medicine is the best medicine, but comedy might be a close second. There is something magical about comedy and laughter. It helps to ease and heal. However, at the same time, there is a responsibility within comedy. And I love comedy. I'm not one to shy away from a really good comedy. Give it all to me. Comedy can and should make fun and hold a mirror up to the things that are wrong or goofy about our society or people in our society. It can and should make fun of those things. But today for my video, I want to speak directly to Dave Chappelle. I don't know that he'd ever watch this video. I wish that you and I could have this conversation face to face. In fact, if you ever want to meet up with me, Kyle Benefield in Illinois, you'll find me. Dear Dave, you have been a household name within my house for a long time. I feel like I know you, like you've told lots and lots of stories that have made me cry with laughter. Clayton Bigsby is one of the funniest characters or things that I've ever seen in my entire life. You have told moving stories that brought me to tears. If there is one thing that you know how to do, it is how to move an audience. You are truly gifted at that. And Dave, you have certainly moved an audience towards emotion with your latest Netflix comedy special. There were parts of it that were extremely funny. There were parts of it that were edgy and very well done. You said some very, very funny things. Honestly, you made me laugh and think, wait, am I even allowed to laugh at those things? However, Dave, there are some things that you did that I think were rather irresponsible. You said some things that were venomous and poisonous. Some of your words were not words of healing. They were not words of comedy per se. They were stabs in the back to a community that is already just trying to survive, just trying to exist. Dave, I want to believe you when you say that you don't feel like the transgender community is listening to you, that they aren't truly hearing what you are saying. They're listening, but they're not hearing. I felt the same way in the beginning. What was it that you were saying that was just so wrong? You kept bringing up race. That's true. Over and over again. You kept saying that it wasn't about transgender people the entire time. It was about race. And I want to believe you that that is the case. However, I think that you miss out on some rather obvious things. You ask, why was it harder that Cassius Clay was able to change his name than it was for Caitlyn Jenner to change her gender? And that sounds like a really great point from a very superficial level, until we stop and actually think about the times. Muhammad Ali changed his name back in the 1960s. No doubt he had a hard time. Nobody's saying he didn't. However, we don't need to, we don't get to pit the hardship of one minority group against another minority group, especially when we don't take in massive variables like the decade that they happened in. The truth is, nobody today would bat an eye if someone just changed their name, unless we are supposed to believe that Flava Flav and Lil Wayne are their actual given names. Times have changed. For Pete's sakes, we all called Prince the artist formerly known as Prince for so long. If Caitlyn Jenner would have done the same thing back in the 1960s, she would likely not have been alive today. She probably would have been beaten up outside of a nightclub or ridiculed by everyone or harassed by the police, possibly murdered, or even taken her own life. Please don't make that comparison. It is not helpful. Dave, you said some things along the lines of the transgender community needs to just learn how to take a joke, that they're somehow too sensitive. And I don't think you realize, one, how offensive that truly is, and two, just how inaccurate it is. You say that they aren't listening, but Dave, to be honest and completely frank with you, I think that you are the one that is not listening to the vast amount of voices right now that are speaking up. They have legitimate concerns with things that you are saying. It isn't that they don't understand how to take a joke. They're just waiting for your jokes to be funny and not hurtful. Dave, look, I look up to you. I think you have a lot to offer to our society. I think that your humor and societal commentary, especially on racism within the US, is spot on. I think that you are dead wrong about the transgender community. I think that if you were to really listen, you would realize that they want your comedy. They just don't want your poisonous darts to be stabbing them constantly in the back. Allow me to say it another way that maybe will make more sense to you. They want comedy about them. They just don't want comedy about them. Does that make sense? Good. I'm glad we cleared that up. Dave, you make fun of straight people all day long, and I love it. I am here for it. Please continue to make fun of us. If anyone needs to be made fun of more, it is straight white people. Dish it out. We need that. We need that mirror held up to us in society. And you do. You do a great job of it. You make fun of straight white people all the time. A lot. I love it. Please keep doing that. However, one thing that I have noticed is that you don't make fun of me because of my straightness. You don't make fun of me because I was born as a male and I identify as a male. The transgender community has comedians that poke fun of people all the time. However, they don't weaponize their words against their own community for just being, for just existing, for just trying to survive in this cruel world. Just like you don't weaponize your words against the white cisgender community solely for just being, for just existing. You talk about us all the time, just like you don't weaponize your words against the white cisgender community for just existing, for just being. You talk about us all the time. You do, absolutely. I love that. We laugh at it, you laugh at the stupid things that we do, and we laugh too, and we're like, haha, I guess we do that, don't we? At the butt of your jokes is not my existence for just being a cisgendered man. Why? Because that's boring as hell. Nobody's gender, wherever they are on this gender spectrum, should be the butt of someone else's joke. Now, transgender comedians joke about their community all the time. You should look into it. In fact, Dahlia Bell of Portland, Oregon has written you an open letter that is quite good and well written. You should read it. However, they don't just repeatedly make cheap jokes about genitals for a quick laugh. You said that in honesty, you are jealous of the LGBTQIA plus experience because of the advancement that they have made in society. Dave, you know better than anyone else. Never be jealous of someone else's platform getting attention. We cheer them on. We don't become jealous. This is an unfair comparison to make. We don't have to pit the minority against the minority. We don't have to pit one trauma experience against another trauma experience. An advancement of one people group is an advancement for all of us. And we applaud that. We are on the same team. However, I think that you are lumping together an entire group of people without realizing that not every letter of the LGBTQIA plus experience has gotten the same boost that you're talking about. I honestly think that if you were to swap lives with a black transgender woman for just a month, that you would quickly want your life back. And if I'm wrong, please tell me. Where is all the success that you're talking about for the transgender community? Because of Caitlyn Jenner? Really? Like they've arrived because we have Caitlyn Jenner? Like, come on, man. You said that you really like the gay people from the Stonewall generation. You respected those gay people. But Dave, they repeatedly got the shit kicked out of them. Is that what it takes to get your respect, to be demoralized and be humiliated, to be beaten within an inch of your life? For so many in the transgender community, that is still very much their life today. Dave, maybe you don't know that 2020 marked the deadliest year on record for violence against transgender people. It was the most violent year on record. Non-binary and transgender people are way more likely to be victims of violent crimes than we are. And Dave, I don't have the latest stats for 2021 as of now, but I'm sure they will come out very soon. But as of June for 2021, we were actually outpacing last year to become the newest, deadliest year on record. I hope we don't break that record. Do you respect them now? They are dying just for being, just for existing. Your words are irresponsible, Dave. And all of this goes along with the words that your friend Daphne said. I don't need you to understand me. I just need for you to believe that I'm having a human experience. Dave, I think you know that there are people right now who are against your race message. They are against mine too. In terms of this racism stuff, I'm right there with you. I feel you. It sucks to feel like you have a group of people who are against you. I've got got people that are against all these videos that I make. Lord knows they are against my videos. I'm like the Antichrist. However, there's something to believing this vast voice of the majority of people. And all the people who are against these videos that I make on race are, of course, white, would probably say something like this: stop making this about race. I have a black friend, so I couldn't possibly racist. Or maybe they've seen a video of Candace Owens online, or they found a black voice who they agree with, and then they choose to ignore the vast majority of what people who are different than them are saying. Dave, that's kind of what you're doing. You found a person who looked up to you, who saw you as a hero of comedy, who took their own life, and then somehow you pitted their community against them as well. You said that the transgender community dragged Daphne on Twitter. You put the culpability of her death on another group of people, a group of people that you clearly don't understand. You don't know the amount of people that were supporting her. You don't know the amount of people that stuck their necks out for her and who tried desperately to be with her in that time. You made it sound like the entire transgender community came out against her on Twitter. However, you propped yourself up as like her savior and pitted another group against her. Now, Twitter can be brutal, and I hate that. People say things behind their computers that they would never say to someone else's face. And there's a lot of hatred out there. I don't doubt that people trolled Daphne on Twitter. People online say some really stupid things. I get them in my comment section all the time. However, you can't have it both ways, Dave. You told us that Twitter isn't a real place, and you don't care whether people drag you on Twitter because it isn't a real place. You don't now get to claim that it isn't a real place with no real influence, and then get to claim that it is when it instead props you up as being the one savior who was supporting Daphne the entire time. I don't doubt that Daphne loved you. I absolutely believe that she did. I don't doubt that Daphne thought that you were brilliant. I do, however, doubt that Daphne agreed with everything that you said. I doubt that she felt like she could tell you everything. I mean, heck, you're Dave Chappelle. If I got to meet you, I'd be tongue-tied as well. I do have a major problem with you putting words into a dead woman's mouth, trying to now convince people that that one person would be okay with you saying whatever thing you say. She isn't here, and we don't know that, and you don't know that as well. Here's another thing. Genital jokes are so passé. What is this, 6th grade? Dave, you have a brilliant mind. Why does it keep coming back to the hardware that people have between their legs? Is that really your A+ material? Genital jokes? Why is that so funny to people? I know a group of people who once just couldn't get past this phase of genital joke. It was in a gym context. Now, when talking about weights, it was hilarious to say things about having problems getting it up. Oh my God, you'd think that the world was going to end in humor because somebody talked about a box and box jump. He said the word box. And don't even get me started on kettlebells. And the first time that people said it, yeah, it was a little bit funny, and people smirked and laughed. Ha ha, oh, that's funny. He made a joke about balls. That's a good one. You got me. I said the word kettlebell, and I'm swinging it, kind of looked like a ball. You're right. Good one. Then I realized over and over again, it was just the same joke over and over and over again. Wait a minute, you just said that 5 minutes ago. Are we still laughing at the same old joke about genitals? It gets old. Genital jokes are cheap. They're not actually that funny, and it gets really old rather quickly, unless you just can't imagine anything deeper than that. Dave, you compared women's genitals to ground meat products. That's your best material? That's the hilarious thing that you wanted to get out in your special? You can do better. I know you can. I know that you have the capability to grow in this. And the entire premise of your video was in defense mode. Dave, I felt like I was watching my hero in a corner, like a cobra, poised, ready to strike out at anyone. You said that Twitter wasn't a real place and that you didn't care if people dragged you on it. But then you spent an entire comedy routine explaining just how it did affect you and defending yourself. I have so much to say. However, the one thing that to me was the hardest to hear you say throughout the entire special was that you were Team TERF. So you're trans exclusionary? You want to exclude the transgender community? That says a lot. Dave, I know that I sound like a fool. I probably sound like an idiot to some of my people who are watching this. Like, really? Kyle P. Benefield, with his tiny YouTube channel, is calling out the GOAT of comedy, Dave Chappelle? Seriously, who even am I? I'm a person, Dave. I'm having a human experience. I'm not trying to cancel you. I'm not trying to drag you. What I am calling you to do is to do better. I'm calling you to listen. I'm calling on you to grow as a person and to not become defensive. You are hilarious. Your timing is impeccable. People aspire to be like you. I remember when one of my favorite comedians, Hannah Gadsby, talked about Pablo Picasso. She talked about how all the people could do was rave about what an amazing painter he was for what he did for Cubism, and that seemingly gave him a pass for being a horrible human being who truly did not value women. And it made me really think as a person, I don't even like Cubism that well. Screw Picasso. Dave, don't be a Picasso. Here's what I would have loved to have seen from you, and you can use this in your next comedy special. You may please give credits to KPB. However, I feel like for this part I need a little fake cigarette to be just like Dave Chappelle. Hey friends, it is really great to see you. Do I look like I know what I'm doing? Look, I know that I kind of put my foot in my mouth over and over again. I really messed up, and I realized that I said some incredibly hurtful things to an entire group of people out of my own ignorance. I'm so sorry. I'm not perfect, but I aim to always better myself. I am growing. I know that some of you might not know me or understand me, but to quote a dear friend of mine, know that I'm having a human experience. I'm in this with you. Thank you for being my fans. I commit to listening to more Black, queer, and transgender people in my life. Dave, after you do that, I want you to spend the next hour of your comedy special just making fun of white cisgender people and bringing attention to important racial tensions in the world. I would pay for that special, Dave. Friends, that's all the time we have this week. Join me back here next week as we take a look at J.K. Rowling and why some people are so upset with her. You won't want to miss it. See you back here next week, same time, same place.